After nearly 3 decades on death row in Texas, Darlie Routier still faces a death sentence for the capital murder of her son Damon. She is now 55 years old and was convicted in the stabbing deaths of her 2 young sons, Devon and Damon Routier. For almost 29 years, she has lived with the knowledge that Texas plans to carry out her execution by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit should her remaining appeals be unsuccessful. In this video from Bruised Voice, we explore the events of that tragic night, the key evidence that shifted suspicion onto a grieving mother who survived, the controversial graveyard video that influenced public opinion nationwide, and the ongoing debates among forensic experts that persist to this day. To grasp how Darlie Routier transformed from an ordinary suburban parent into one of America's most debated figures on death row, we must return to the pre-dawn hours of June 6, 1996, in the peaceful suburb of Rowlett, Texas, and the desperate 911 call that set everything in motion. It was June 6, 1996, at 2:31 a.m. in Rowlett, Texas. Emergency dispatchers answered a call that has since become one of the most scrutinized audio recordings in U.S. true crime history. The caller was a woman clearly in anguish. Her name was Darlie Routier, then 26 years old. "My babies are dying," she sobbed into the phone. She explained to the operator that an intruder had broken into their home while everyone slept downstairs. She said her young sons had been viciously attacked, and she had awakened to discover them seriously wounded. The emergency call ran for 5 minutes and 44 seconds. Law enforcement reached the scene shortly after. At the residence on 5801 Eagle Drive, officers encountered a horrifying sight that immediately sparked suspicion. 2 small boys lay on the family room floor, both bearing deep stab wounds. One boy had already passed away. They had been stabbed multiple times. One died immediately, while the other clung to life upon the arrival of help but ultimately succumbed. Their mother stood nearby, wounded and bleeding yet alert. Her throat bore a severe cut, and her arms showed slashes. Blood covered much of the area. She remained conscious and communicative. The home displayed clear marks of struggle, disarray, and terror. From that point, investigators shifted focus. The central mystery became not merely the nature of the violence, but who had caused it. Darlie Lynn Peck was born January 4, 1970, in Altoona, Pennsylvania. At age 15, she relocated to Lubbock, Texas, with her mother and stepfather. Her mother, Darlie Key, found employment at a Western sizzlin' restaurant. There, a 17-year-old named Darren Routier worked as a cook. He served as assistant manager and had been voted most likely to succeed in high school. Friends described him as reserved, diligent, and unusually mature. When teenage Darlie entered the restaurant, sparks flew instantly. She was physically mature for her years, with blonde hair, an attractive figure, and a winning personality, the full package, as some might say. That very evening, Darren and Darlie went on their first date. They quickly grew inseparable. In August 1988, roughly 3 years after meeting, they married. Darlie was 18, Darren was 20. The future appeared bright. For a time, success followed them everywhere. Darren launched a company named Test Neck, specializing in testing electronic parts. The business thrived, especially by 1995. Test Neck generated around $500,000 in annual gross revenue, allowing Darren to draw a salary of $125,000 per year. The Routiers relocated to Rowlett, Texas, a prosperous area east of Dallas. They bought a handsome 2-story brick house on Eagle Drive and invested heavily in upgrades. Darren purchased a 1982 Jaguar and a 30-foot cabin cruiser for outings on nearby Lake Ray Hubbard. Darlie underwent breast augmentation to a 36 DDD size in 1992 and adorned her fingers with diamond rings. She maintained long, bleached blonde hair, long artificial nails, and a wardrobe of high-end fashion. To neighbors, the Routiers embodied the American dream. Yet they were more than their lavish exterior. Despite the flashy image, they earned genuine affection in the community. Darlie earned a reputation as a warm, cookie-baking homemaker who prepared food for neighbors facing difficulties. She once covered a mortgage payment for a friend battling cancer. Local children, some of whom later spoke positively of her at trial, enjoyed cookies she baked and parties she hosted. Devon Rush Routier arrived on June 14, 1989, soon after his parents' wedding. Damon Christian Routier followed on February 19, 1991. Then, on October 18, 1995, the couple welcomed their third son, Drake. 3 handsome boys, a prosperous venture, a stunning residence. Outwardly, the Routiers possessed it all. Beneath that polished surface, however, tensions were emerging. Early in 1996, Darren's company encountered setbacks. Client orders declined. Income fell sharply. Debts accumulated rapidly. The family lagged at least a month on their mortgage payments. They owed the IRS approximately $10,000 in overdue taxes and carried $12,000 in credit card debt. Just one day prior to the tragedy, Darren sought a $5,000 loan for a vacation but was denied because of their unstable finances. If financial strain strained their relationship, it remained hidden from outsiders. Darren and Darlie avoided public disagreements. Darlie continued her spending habits unabated. She had even arranged a summer getaway to Cancun with female friends. The couple appeared committed to projecting an image of flawless family life, regardless of private challenges. Then came the journal passage that prosecutors highlighted during the trial. On May 3, 1996, only a month before the killings, Darlie penned a troubling note in what had generally been a positive diary. She struggled with postpartum depression following Drake's birth. The entry mentioned thoughts of suicide. She spoke directly to her 3 sons, asking forgiveness and urging them not to blame themselves for her potential departure. Prosecutors portrayed this as insight into her troubled mindset. Her supporters countered that it reflected the temporary despair many new mothers experience with the condition. Regardless of interpretation, that single entry became a pivotal piece of evidence against her. The evening of June 5, 1996, unfolded routinely in the Routier home. Darren and Darlie conversed late into the night, well past midnight. They shared a goodnight kiss. Darren then headed upstairs to the master bedroom. The night of June 6, 1996, in a quiet suburb of Rowlett, Texas, tragedy struck the Routier family home on Eagle Drive. 7-month-old Drake slept peacefully in his crib upstairs. Downstairs in the family room, his mother, Darlie, had been sleeping on the couch that week. Her 2 older sons, 6-year-old Devon and 5-year-old Damon, preferred camping out on the floor there since school ended for the summer. Darlie, a light sleeper often disturbed by the baby's movements overhead, chose to stay close to the boys. The television glowed softly in the dim room, casting faint light over the sleeping family. The house remained still until around 2:30 a.m. when chaos erupted. According to Darlie's account to police, she awoke to Damon touching her shoulder and crying, "Mommy, Mommy." In the darkness, she didn't immediately notice her own injuries. She glimpsed a figure moving through the kitchen toward the garage and pursued him. In the utility room, she spotted a knife on the floor, apparently dropped by the fleeing man. She picked it up. On the 911 call, Darlie informed the dispatcher she had handled the knife, leaving her fingerprints, but hoped investigators could still recover the attacker's prints from it. She set the knife on the kitchen counter. Only then did she look down and see blood soaking her clothing. Her throat had been cut, and her arms bore slashes. She screamed for her husband, Darren, who was upstairs with the baby. She saw Devon and Damon motionless on the floor in spreading pools of blood. Desperate, she dialed emergency services. Police and paramedics arrived quickly to a horrifying scene. Devon lay lifeless, already gone. Damon struggled for breath but succumbed soon after. Darlie, bleeding profusely from her neck and arms, remained conscious and spoke clearly. She described the assailant as a white male about 6 feet tall, dressed in a black shirt, jeans, and a baseball cap. She said he fled through the garage. Investigators examined the property. A window screen in the garage appeared cut, seemingly confirming an entry point for an intruder. The large kitchen knife on the counter, bloodied, matched one from the Routier kitchen's knife block, the largest in the set. Yet discrepancies emerged almost immediately, raising doubts about Darlie's version. The garage showed no signs of frantic escape. No blood trails on the floor, no disturbed items. The cut windowsill retained thick, undisturbed dust layers. If someone climbed through, dust would have shifted. Mulch in the flower beds outside remained pristine, with no footprints or trampled paths toward the backyard gate. Inside, circular blood drops dotted the kitchen floor. Such patterns form when blood falls from a stationary or slowly moving person, not someone running or pursuing an intruder. Luminol revealed Darlie's bloody footprints near the kitchen sink, suggesting she stood there bleeding for an extended period. Blood cleanup appeared evident around the sink. A vacuum cleaner lay overturned atop her bloody prints, with broken glass scattered over blood drops on the floor, indicating the glass shattered after the blood fell, hinting at scene staging. Darlie's actions during and after the 911 call drew scrutiny. Officers noted moments of eerie composure amid panic. She ignored the dispatcher's guidance to apply pressure to Damon's wounds. When paramedics rushed Damon away, she didn't follow or inquire about his destination. Instead, she repeatedly asked officers if her jewelry was missing. Hospital staff observed unusual demeanor from a mother who had lost 2 children. Minimal tears, emotional withdrawal, greater distress over her appearance and hair than the boys' deaths. Prosecutors portrayed this as inconsistent with profound grief, suggesting guilt instead. But the most striking element surfaced later, away from the crime scene. 8 days after the killings, the family gathered at the cemetery for what would have been Devon's 7th birthday. A local news station from Channel 5 attended to document it. Footage captured Darlie at the graves, smiling broadly, laughing, chewing gum, singing happy birthday, and spraying silly string over the headstones. Balloons floated, gifts sat nearby, and an airplane even flew overhead towing a happy birthday banner. Darlie seemed almost exuberant. Darren stood behind her, hands in pockets, head lowered, stepping back awkwardly as the silly string flew. Prosecutor Greg Davis found the video pivotal. He later remarked how shocking it seemed. Just a week after losing the boys, a full celebration unfolded at the graves. The clip aired locally, then became central to the trial, replayed repeatedly for jurors. Some viewed it 7 or 8 times during deliberations. Supporters of Darlie insist the footage was misleading. They say a private, solemn memorial with prayers and tears preceded the cameras. The silly string moment aimed to honor Devon's joyful spirit, celebrating his memory with happiness rather than endless sorrow. 4 days after the video broadcast, Darlie Routier faced arrest and charges of capital murder. The graveside celebration emerged as powerful prosecution evidence, swaying perceptions of her character and motives. The case divided opinions sharply. Evidence like undisturbed dust, blood patterns, and behavioral oddities pointed toward inconsistencies in the intruder claim. Yet questions linger about forensic handling and potential alternatives. Darlie maintains her innocence, asserting an unknown attacker committed the crime, with enduring controversy. Subscribe to Bruised Voice for more deep dives into real cases that challenge what we think we know. Hit that like button if this story gripped you and share your thoughts below. Do the facts point to guilt, or is there more to uncover? Turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. The jury never viewed that footage. Instead, the vision of a mother gleefully spraying silly string across her slain son's graves became fixed in the public's mind. The trial of Darlie Routier started on January 6, 1997 in Kerrville, Texas. The location shifted from Dallas County because of overwhelming media attention. Kerrville sat in one of Texas's most conservative counties, known for frequent death penalty convictions. Leading the prosecution was Assistant District Attorney Greg Davis, supported by Toby Shook and Sherry Wallace. The defense came from Doug Mulder, a well-known local attorney whom the Routier family hired after mortgaging properties to cover his costs. From the outset, prosecutors portrayed Darlie Routier as a narcissistic, appearance-obsessed woman whose extravagant way of life faced threats from money troubles and parenting duties. No longer the striking blonde in the spotlight, she supposedly resented her son's drawing attention away and sought to reclaim it. They presented 38 witnesses to construct their indirect evidence case. Crime scene expert James Cron stated that clues pointed to the home interior being arranged artificially. Arriving around 5:30 a.m., he decided within about 20 minutes that Darlie committed the act. Bloodstain specialist Tom Bevel described patterns on Darlie's nightshirt. He explained that spatter on the back implied she lifted the knife overhead while pulling it from each child to strike again. This testimony proved highly damaging, implying she stood behind her boys, repeatedly stabbing as blood flicked from the blade onto her back. Prosecutors showed screen fragments from the sliced garage window discovered on a bread knife in the kitchen, proposing Darlie cut it herself to fake an entry. They claimed she used that bread knife for the screen and a bigger butcher knife for the killings. They proposed a monetary reason. Both boys held life insurance worth only $10,000 total, not covering even funeral costs over $14,000. The defense promptly noted this small sum and questioned why, if money drove her, she spared her husband Darren, insured for $800,000, and left her infant son Drake, then 7 months old, unharmed upstairs. Prosecutors lacked strong replies to these points, yet they relied heavily on the silly string footage, replaying it repeatedly. The defense emphasized insufficient proof against Darlie. No clear motive, no admission, no direct observers. Attorney Doug Mulder insisted to the jury that no logical cause existed for her to harm those children. They introduced medical and mental health specialists who supported Darlie's account of an unknown assailant. San Antonio Chief Medical Examiner Vincent DeMaio testified that the neck injury missed her carotid artery by merely 2 millimeters, the thickness of pencil lead. A fraction deeper and she would have died rapidly from blood loss. He viewed this cut as inconsistent with deliberate self-harm he had encountered. Its depth and risk made it unlikely for anyone faking harm to risk so close to the vital artery. However, Darlie Routier chose to testify, ignoring her lawyer's counsel. The move backfired. During cross-examination by Toby Shook, she faltered, weeping unpredictably, turning combative, and citing memory loss for crucial moments. Shook pressed her on this convenient, selective forgetfulness. Whenever incriminating details surfaced, she recalled fresh explanations. Jurors found her unconvincing. Her claimed amnesia appeared too selective, with new recollections emerging only to counter damaging points. The proceedings spanned almost 5 weeks. On January 31, 1997, jurors received the case and deliberated roughly 8 hours across 2 days, viewing the silly string clip 7 or 8 times. On February 1, 1997, they found her guilty of capital murder. 3 days afterward, on February 4, they imposed death by lethal injection. She joined a small group of women on death row nationwide. Darlie's mother, Darlie Key, felt crushed. She later remarked that deliberations centered on silly string, adding, "Silly string is not a lethal weapon." Yet the silly string clip was not the sole issue in Darlie's trial. Hidden evidence existed that jurors missed, evidence that could have altered perceptions. Authorities secretly recorded at the gravesite while monitoring the Routier family. That recording captured events unseen by the jury. On the day of the notorious silly string event, the family first conducted a serious memorial for the boys. They prayed, wept, and mourned deeply. The light-hearted activity followed later, after official cameras ceased during the grieving portion. Legal worries over the covert recording kept that full tape from the courtroom. Jurors saw only the playful part, never the sorrow. Another lingering mystery involves a bloody sock belonging to Darren Routier, located in an alley about 75 yards from the home. It carried blood from both Devon and Damon, but none from Darlie. Prosecutors claimed she placed it there to simulate an escaping intruder. But a flaw arose. If she planted it after her throat wound, she lost considerable blood. Yet no trail of her blood appeared on the patio, fence, or alley. No external blood existed anywhere outside except on that sock. The timeline adds further doubt. Medical findings indicated Damon survived no longer than 9 minutes after stabbing, likely 6 or fewer. Darlie remained on the 911 line for 5 minutes and 44 seconds. The officer reached the scene right as the 911 call concluded and stayed with Darlie Lynn Routier for roughly another minute until emergency medical teams arrived. Damon was alive upon their arrival. Calculating the timeline, Darlie had merely around 2 minutes to fatally wound her 2 sons, move to the garage, slice the window screen, enter through it, leap over the rear fence, or exit via the gate, sprint barefoot approximately 75 yards along a shadowy alleyway to discard a blood-soaked sock, hurry the same distance back, re-enter the residence, inflict wounds on herself, wipe blood near the sink, arrange the scene to appear staged, and dial emergency services. 2 minutes. Could that sequence truly occur? Appeals launched soon after her conviction. Her appellate lawyers uncovered that the court reporter, Sandra Halsey, introduced over 30,000 inaccuracies into the trial record. Thousands of words vanished entirely. Portions of testimony appeared distorted, and full dialogues were wrongly captured. Nevertheless, appellate courts deemed the mistakes insufficient to justify retrying the case. The defense further contended that trial counsel Doug Mulder faced a conflict, having earlier represented her husband Darren in a separate gag order matter. This claim was rejected. In 2008, a court authorized DNA analysis on critical items like the bloodied sock, a nightshirt, and fingerprints from the location. Yet bureaucratic holdups have repeatedly stalled progress. In 2017, authorities realized evidence intended for transfer to the Department of Public Safety for examination had never left storage, remaining untouched for years. In 2018, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals remanded the matter to the trial court to assess DNA issues and additional assertions. In 2021, a judge directed further DNA examination on the sock and related pieces. In early 2024, a judge approved sock testing, mandating samples reach a human identification facility within 30 days. To date, those findings remain outstanding. Darlie Routier has awaited DNA outcomes for over 16 years. The analysis that might establish her innocence or affirm guilt stays unfinished. Other items still puzzle observers. A blood-stained fingerprint appeared on a coffee table at the scene. Testing in 2002 confirmed it matched no family member. Whose was it? Another print surfaced on the garage windowsill, supposedly the entry point for an intruder. It likewise excluded all Routiers. Expert Pat Wertheim later stated he could neither eliminate nor positively identify Darlie's right ring finger as its source. These unidentified marks linger without resolution, and one additional element has escaped thorough scrutiny. In spring 1996, months prior to the killings, Darren Routier approached his father-in-law regarding an insurance fraud scheme. He sought someone to stage a break-in at their home to claim payout. He later conceded to investigators he might have shared the idea with others, possibly including individuals tied to local vehicle theft operations. Might that scheme have escalated disastrously? Could Darren's proposed fake burglary have turned into a genuine, tragic invasion? Darlie Routier has proclaimed her innocence for nearly 28 years. In 2018, ABC broadcast a documentary series titled The Last Defense, delving deeply into her situation. During it, Darlie addressed the damaging silly string footage from the gravesite. Devon wanted to be 7, she explained. She did what she could to fulfill his wish and celebrate him since he was gone. But no one knows how grief will manifest after losing 2 children. Her former husband Darren, who divorced her in 2011 yet still supports her innocence, appeared as well. It is not too late, he noted, because Darlie is not dead. The Darlie Routier matter poses profound, unresolved questions. Did a mother in a quiet suburb kill her sleeping young sons, then wound herself to disguise the act? Or did an attempted home invasion victimize her, compounded by hasty police conclusions and intense media coverage? The graveside video captured a woman smiling and spraying silly string, yet omitted preceding sorrow. Blood patterns implied scene manipulation, but failed to clarify planting a sock 75 yards distant without her own blood trail. Prosecutors alleged motive tied to insurance, though policies fell short of even burial expenses. Crucial DNA that could resolve everything awaits completion in a Texas lab. Today, Darlie Routier, now 55, resides on death row at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas. She has not embraced her surviving son Drake since her 1997 conviction. He was an infant of 7 months when his brothers died. Now 30, he grew up seeing his mother via protective glass. Drake resides in Texas with his father. Darren has remarried but persists in seeking Darlie's freedom. He bears tattoos of her and their 3 boys. No execution is scheduled. DNA work proceeds. Darlie waits. Nearly 3 decades have passed in anticipation. Her mother, Darlie Key, visits often and has unwavering faith in her daughter's innocence. "I want my daughter home," she has declared, "and then we will mourn Devon and Damon together." Devon Rush Routier would be 36 now. He wished to reach 7. He only marked it at his resting place with silly string and balloons, captured on camera. Damon Christian Routier would be 34. Stabbed repeatedly in the back while asleep on the family room floor, his bloodied palm print emerged under luminol on the couch. In his last efforts, young Damon struggled upright, seeking escape and survival. He reached his mother's position. "Mommy, mommy," he called, his final words. Whether she preserved or ended his life remains a question lingering across the nation for almost 28 years. The Darlie Routier story endures. DNA examination continues. Court motions persist. The legal fight goes on. If this case has intrigued you and you want more deep dives into true crime mysteries like this one, hit that subscribe button on Bruised Voice, turn on notifications and drop a like. Your support keeps these stories alive. A 16-year-old true crime enthusiast from Rockwall recently challenged the Dallas District Attorney's office in court, seeking access to materials from the original proceedings. He aims to examine what jurors reviewed and grasp how they reached their verdict. Unresolved issues linger, with potential evidence awaiting analysis and a woman on death row insisting she is innocent. Did Darlie Routier kill her 2 young sons in their Rowlett home then? Craft a staged scene to mislead investigators? Or did a mysterious intruder break in that night in June 1996, fatally attack the children, Devon, 6 and Damon, 5, and leave their mother to bear the blame for nearly 3 decades? The answers may hide within the physical clues. A blood-stained sock discovered 75 yards away from the residence, a graveside video featuring silly string that stunned viewers nationwide, unidentified fingerprints never linked to anyone, and DNA evidence untouched for many years. Meanwhile, Darlie Routier continues her steadfast declarations of innocence from behind bars year after year. Justice hangs in doubt. Families still seek closure. The controversy persists. And Darlie Routier, once labeled the silly string killer, remains on death row, awaiting resolutions that might never arrive. If this case intrigues you, subscribe to Bruised Voice for more deep dives into real mysteries like this one.